Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Jeffrey. Of course, this is the Inquisitive Universe, and today we're going to be discussing the top 10 phones between 200 and 300,000 naira. That's around 110 to 185, 190 USD that you can pick up right now. You know, you can walk into a store right now and pick them up, whether it's Slot, Raya, Pointech, Onyx, 3C Hub, any of them. I am not going to be covering second-hand phones, old flagships, fairly used phones that you buy off the black market or off independent sellers, because that market has a lot of things, from fraud to batteries are no longer working to phones with faults and all that I really am not interested in covering now. So I'm going to be sticking with phones that you can walk into any store, pull out your debit card or your money, and then buy on the spot. Right, that's what I'm covering. Now, without any further ado, let's just go straight into the video. We're going to be starting with number 10. And number 10 on my list is the Vivo Y28. Right, this phone for me should not be selling at this amount because it has a Helio G85 processor. Right, a 720p display and an 8MP selfie. That's what they are selling for 244,800 for the 8GB RAM, 128GB variant. I've seen people say, Jeffrey, it's 8GB RAM, but nah. Honestly, the fact that this phone is even actually making a top 10 list shows you the quality of phones that they are selling for this amount, which is actually quite bad. This list is supposed to be competitive, but it is not, right? The only good things I can recommend about this phone is that it has a 6000 mAh battery and 44 watts of fast charge. That's just all about it. Nothing more, nothing less. Let's move on. Let's talk about the HMD Pulse Pro. Now, this one again, I'm not also a fan of this one. Unisoc T603, right? And a 90Hz 1080p display that they're selling for 250,800. Yes, granted, it's got big RAM and storage, 8GB RAM and 256GB storage, right? And a decent 50MP selfie camera. But other than that, the repairability that they are trying to sell is a gimmick for me, as far as I'm concerned. And its specs here do not really warrant, a 250k phone. But the HMD name is starting to actually grow and people are actually liking it and whatnot. So again, I really don't know. This one, the gimmick they are selling here is repairability, right? So let's move on. Let's go to number 8, and that's the Realme C75, which is actually quite popular now. And personally, I'm not a fan of the phone. Granted, the phone has a decent 6000 mAh battery, I beg your pardon, and 45 watts of fast charge, right? But everything else on this phone screams budget. Helio G92, right? 90Hz LCD display, 8MP selfie, and they're selling it for what? The cost price is around 245, but I think there's a promo now. I'm seeing it for as low as 234 in some places. So again, that one is your own cup of tea, really, right? That's number 8. Number 7 is the Samsung Galaxy A24. Now, this one is a bit dated now, from 2023, but you still find it on Slot because I got it off their website. Now, this is where you start seeing decent specs. Helio G99, Super AMOLED display, albeit at 90Hz, but still a Super AMOLED display anyway. Decent 50MP camera with 5MP ultra wide and 2MP macro. I think it's actually quite fair. 13MP selfie, 5000 mAh battery. The only problems with Samsung usually is that their fast charge, they really don't like fast charge for some reason. You will find this one for 240k for the 4GB RAM, 128GB variant. However, Samsung and 4GB RAM can't really beat it. They're not beating the allegations anyway. Let's move on. Let's go to number 6, and that's the Infinix Hot 54G, right? And this one ships with a Helio G100 LCD display nonetheless, 50MP camera, 5000 mAh battery, but they're selling it for 210, which for me is actually quite fair considering how the currency has stagnated. 210k is quite fair, right? I'm actually okay with this one. If you have 210k and you pick up this one, there's really no problem, right? Let's move on. Let's talk about number 5. That's the Oppo A3. Now, this is the only 5G phone on the list, right? If you're looking for 5G on the cheap, big battery size and fast charge, this is the phone you should be looking for. This one and the P55 5G, of course, I'm going to always insert that there because there's really no difference between both phones, right? So phone sells for 247,500, which for me I believe is overpriced because it's a 720p display, right? Same 50MP camera, 5MP selfie, which you'd also find on the P55 5G. So I really don't know why Oppo are selling this phone for almost 250k generally, right? I know this list feels a lot like I'm complaining, but it is what it is. Right, let's move on to number 4. And number 4 is the Infinix Hot 50 Pro Plus 4G. Now, this one again, Helio G100 AMOLED display, 120Hz, 50MP main camera, 13MP selfie, 5000 mAh, and 33 watts of fast charge. You most likely be seeing the specs for the remainder of this list, right? So it sells for, that's the Infinix Hot 50 Pro Plus, sells for 277,000 for the 8GB RAM, 256GB storage. And that would then take us to number 3, which is the Tecno Camon 40 4G. Again, Helio G100. Again, AMOLED 1080p display, 120Hz. This one only has marginally better selfie camera, 32MP selfie camera, and then 50MP main camera, and then at least it has decent fast charge, 45 watts of fast charge, and a bigger 5200 mAh battery. It's a 2025 phone and it sells for 284,000. I believe it's actually kind of like on the high side, but it is what it is. Second place goes to the Spark 30 Pro. Again, Helio G100. Again, AMOLED display. Again, 120Hz. This one has the 108 megapixel main camera. 13MP selfie is actually quite weak, but 5000 mAh battery, 33 watts of fast charge. Sells for 231,000. It's a 2024 phone. It's not that old. I think the phone came out around September or October. So I did a review on the channel. Anyway, so it is what it is. The best phone on this list is the Redmi Note 14 4G. Helio G99, yes, but Helio G99 and G100 are the same thing. The only difference is support for 108 megapixel camera as opposed to 200MP camera, right? So the same AMOLED display, 1080p, 120Hz, 108 megapixel camera, 20AP selfie, 5500 mAh battery, 33 watts of fast charge, and it sells for around 249,800. I think it's actually if you look at all these phones from the top 6, right, from the top 6 up to now, they all have the same specs, but the Redmi Note 14 4G is actually the one that's priced around that 250k mark, which I believe all of these phones should be priced at. So that's why it comes first place on the list for offering price to performance. Now, if you're looking for 5G, right, the only thing is that the Itel P55 5G is not here, right? But it offers almost the same specs as the Oppo A3, and I'll probably do a comparison of these two phones after this. But it offers almost the same specifications, which is actually quite interesting, and it's not as priced as high as the Oppo A3. So that one's also around 125,000. So you should probably pick that one up if it's 5G you're looking for. Other than that, all of the phones you see here are mostly 4G phones. Now, what helps them to stand out is the fact that they give them very good displays, very good cameras, and decent batteries with adequate fast charge. So that's the criteria on which I picked this list. So if you have any questions or you have any comments and whatnot, please leave them in the comments below. I'm going to be covering the best phones you can buy between 100,000 and 200,000 next, right? So just make sure to be subscribed and stay tuned for that one. My name is Jeffrey. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share small actions like yours that help small channels like mine grow. And of course, I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.